A dull thwack echoes in the cold morning air. Blood sprays across the wooden scaffold, slickening the boards beneath a kneeling man. Hunyadi László gasps, shock and agony contorting his young face. The executioner's axe has struck, yet incredibly, his head remains attached by ragged flesh. A collective gasp rises from the crowd, frozen in terror. For an instant, it seems even the heavens recoil from this bloody deed. László chokes on warm blood, eyes wide with pain and disbelief. Moments ago, he believed the king's solemn promise of mercy would spare him. Now that hope lies shattered. He sways on his knees, crimson staining his once fine shirt. The executioner falters, hands trembling on the axe handle. Whispers spread through the onlookers. Is it a sign? The blade has fallen twice, and somehow László still lives. Some in the crowd cross themselves, wondering if a higher power intervenes. Can a man marked for death be saved by fate? For one breathless moment, the city of Buda holds its collective breath. To understand how László Hunyadi reached this horrific moment, we must step back into the perilous world of 15th century Hungary. The kingdom is beset by enemies without and within. The Ottoman Empire presses at its borders, while inside the realm, factions of nobles scheme under a fragile crown. At the center of these storms stands the house of Hunyadi. János Hunyadi, father of László, was a national hero who defended Hungary against the Turks and ruled as regent. The common people adored him, but his fame earned him bitter enemies among the old aristocracy. Chief among them was Ulrich of Celje, a powerful lord who had the ear of the young King Ladislaus V. The king himself, only a teenager, was largely controlled by Ulrich and other nobles who feared the Hunyadis' influence. Legend says that on his deathbed in 1456, János Hunyadi warned his sons never to trust King Ladislaus or his advisors. That warning soon proved prophetic. In November 1456, mere weeks after János's death, King Ladislaus and Ulrich of Celje arrived at the fortress of Belgrade to meet László. Ulrich, determined to eliminate the Hunyadi heir, tried to ensnare László in a plot. But events turned suddenly. Ulrich was slain by László's men during a confrontation. The young king, shocked and suddenly bereft of his mentor, found himself at the Hunyadis' mercy. Panicked, Ladislaus V granted László an immediate pardon for Ulrich's death. He even swore before witnesses, including his own mother, that he would protect the Hunyadi family. To prove his sincerity, the king appointed László as Captain General of Hungary and arranged for him to marry into a prominent rival family. These gestures of friendship and reconciliation convinced László that the danger had passed. He could not know that the pardon he held was a lie, a thin shield against the sword of vengeance. Despite the public reconciliation, many at court still thirsted for Hunyadi blood. Through the winter of 1456-57, whispers in the royal palace turned venomous. Ulrich's allies and other magnates pressed King Ladislaus to finish what had been started. They painted László as a threat to the throne. Slowly, the young king's fear of the Hunyadis overcame his sense of honor. By early spring, Ladislaus V set a deadly plan in motion. He invited László to Buda under the pretext of a grand council, a friendly summons from a now trusting king. László arrived in good faith, only to be met with betrayal. As soon as he passed through the city gates, armed guards surrounded him. In an instant, the king's promise of safety evaporated. László was seized, bound in irons, and dragged to the dungeons of Buda Castle. Outside, news of László's arrest spread disbelief and dread. Had the king truly broken his oath? In the streets and taverns, people murmured that if even the great Hunyadi's son could be deceived and imprisoned, no one was safe from royal treachery. Inside the castle, László's enemies rejoiced. Their trap had closed perfectly. A hasty tribunal convened behind closed doors. László Hunyadi, war hero's son and loyal officer of the crown, was accused of treason. It was a sham. No evidence, no defense. The verdict was never in doubt. In mere hours, he was condemned to death for plotting against the king. The sentence was pronounced in darkness, without fanfare. László's mother, Elizabeth Szilágyi, pleaded for her son's life, reminding Ladislaus of his sworn word, but it was no use. The young noble's fate was sealed in blood. At dawn on March 16, 1457, an ashen sky loomed over Buda. In the castle courtyard, a scaffold stood ready, its wooden boards damp with dew. László Hunyadi was hauled from his cell into the pale morning light. Shackles bit into his wrists, but he walked with head unbowed. Perhaps he still couldn't believe that the king would truly carry out this atrocity, that the promised mercy had turned to this brutal end. A ring of soldiers and a handful of spectators gathered as László climbed the steps to the scaffold. The black-hooded executioner stood waiting beside a massive headsman's axe. An official read out the charge of high treason in a monotone. There would be no last-minute reprieve. King Ladislaus was nowhere in sight. He did not even show his face for the killing of the man he had called friend. The priest offered final prayers. László knelt and placed his neck on the block. He did not beg or cry out, perhaps knowing now that no mercy would come. The crowd watched in uneasy silence, hearts pounding. The executioner raised his axe. With a heavy swoosh, the blade fell. It struck with a sickening thud but did not kill. The blow was off target, slicing into flesh but stopping at László's spine. His body jerked violently and a horrific scream tore from his throat. Blood gushed over the scaffold and a ripple of horror swept through the onlookers. László Hunyadi was grievously wounded, but alive. Panicked, the executioner pulled the axe free and struck again. The second blow landed with a gruesome crunch. Still, the head did not sever completely. Incredibly, László's eyes fluttered. He was somehow still conscious in unspeakable agony. A few witnesses cried out in shock. Some turned away, unable to watch this nightmare. Summoning one last burst of strength, László gurgled a hoarse plea. He gasped that heaven itself had judged him innocent. Why else would the axe twice refuse to take his life? Murmurs spread. Perhaps this was a sign, a miracle. A wave of pity and panic washed over the crowd. Surely the king would not pursue this ghastly spectacle any further. But a cold command came from a nearby official. The execution must continue. The headsman steeled himself and raised the axe a third time. The crowd braced, many in tears. With a final, savage stroke, the blade swept down and at last struck true. László Hunyadi's neck was severed. His head tumbled to the blood-soaked planks of the scaffold. A stunned silence fell, broken only by sobs and cries of anger. The executioner lifted the severed head high by the hair to show all that the deed was done. László's once handsome face stared back, pale and lifeless, mouth slightly open as if to utter one final question. Why? The crowd could hold back no longer. Wails of grief and shouts of rage echoed off the castle walls. On that scaffold lay not just a beloved young man, but the shattered remnants of a royal oath. The horror of László Hunyadi's execution sent shockwaves through Hungary. What began as gasps of disbelief quickly turned to fury. The Hunyadi family's allies and many ordinary Hungarians rose up in open revolt upon hearing of the king's treachery. King Ladislaus V, now denounced as an oath-breaker and murderer, found his support crumbling. Within weeks, he was forced to flee Buda in fear of his life. The young king never returned to Hungary. He escaped to Prague, but he could not escape fate. Only a few months later, 17-year-old Ladislaus fell suddenly ill and died. His abrupt death was seen by many as divine punishment for the betrayal of László, a cosmic justice for a broken oath. In a twist of fate, the elimination of László cleared the path for the Hunyadi family to ascend to even greater power. By early 1458, the Hungarian nobility, bowing to public sentiment and political reality, elected László's younger brother as the new king. Matthias Hunyadi, just 14, was crowned King of Hungary amid rejoicing crowds. He would grow into Matthias Corvinus, known as Matthias the Just, one of Hungary's greatest kings. The very blood spilled on that scaffold seemed to water the seeds of a new era for the nation. And yet, the triumph of Matthias could not erase the tragedy of László's fate. His heartbroken mother and his bereaved fiancé reportedly wept over his lifeless body, engraving a scene of unspeakable sorrow into the national memory. László Hunyadi became a martyr in the eyes of the people, a symbol of innocence betrayed by tyranny. For generations, his story was told as a cautionary tale about the capricious cruelty of those in power. Even today, the execution of László Hunyadi stands as a stark reminder that in the ruthless struggle for power, a king's word may mean nothing at all. His downfall urges us to remember how fragile justice can be when authority is unchecked. A promise, even one sealed with royal sincerity, proved to be as fleeting as breath on a mirror, and the cost was paid in blood. Does László Hunyadi's fate fill you with anger at the injustice or fear at how easily power can betray? This chilling tale forces us to ask, what would you have done in his place? And could such treachery happen in any age, or is it confined to the shadows of history? If this dark saga gripped you, join us next time for another haunting chapter of the past, another tale where ambition, betrayal, and blood take center stage. Until then, remember the lesson of László Hunyadi. In the annals of history, one act of treachery can topple the mighty and transform a kingdom. His story, written in blood on a scaffold, should never be forgotten.